Welcome to the 40K Shop Talk podcast, broadcasting live from the Manufactorum.
I'm your host, Austin, joined by my co-host, Rob. Join us as we talk shop about new codexes, units, army lists, and general strategies. If it's 40K related, you'll hear it here. How's it going, everybody? All right, Rob, I'll let you take over and get everybody introduced to what we're going to talk about today.
All right, well, we're going to talk about some Death Guard. I've been playing a list, and I kind of wanted to talk about it and tell you all what it brings to the table.
Cool.
So,
all right, well, we can just jump right in then if you want. Just consider this a list episode and dig in.
Right. So, I want to start off by saying this list and what I've played has been working out pretty well. Some of my concerns are things like Drakari right now, and how do I try to counter them. So this has kind of got me digging into the book to see kind of what my options are, and what I can do. So I guess the first big question is going to be, and let's just kind of get this out of the way first, because it's really going to depend on how we build. But are we bringing Mortarion, or are we not bringing Mortarion?
Oh man, we're going to start there.
So I have two options. My personal choices, I think, if you want to have fun, Mortarion is super fun, and he's really good, and you really can't go wrong with him. He does struggle a little bit in the Drakari matchup, but aside from that matchup, I think he's really solid.
So Mortarion scares me because I play Custodes primary, so I don't want to see Mortarion. I think he's a powerhouse. I mean, I also think playing against things like knights and big models is a lot of fun. I probably would bring him just if I played the army. I mean, I think there are probably ways to build around him and make him good, but we can always come back to him at the end as like a fun unit if you want to dig into the list you think is best without him.
Sure. I will note that not only is he a fun unit, but he is ultra competitive too.
Yeah.
I mean,
so we're not ruling him out. We're not saying
there's not too much you need to do with him. Like, you don't need to build an army of synergy around him. You can kind of just plug and play him, in my opinion. Now, there are certain traits and stuff that I personally like best on him. But we will forego him for now, and then I'll circle back with the updated list with him.
All right, cool.
But spoiler, it's not that much different. It's pretty much the same list.
Hey, but look, units that are plug and play, I mean, that means the book's often in a really good spot. We've seen that with Marines before, when you can switch out one or two units for basically one or two units that are exactly the same points cost and just a different role. It usually means the book is strong, so that could be a tell. I do have a pretty serious question, though. Are we using the miasmic malignifier, a.k.a. the poop oven?
No.
Ah, damn.
I am not using that.
All right.
I don't think it's. I'm sure maybe it's great for some people. I haven't found any good uses for it. Well, I mean, there's some arguments of how you could use it around objectives and stuff like that, but I don't know. I don't like it.
It's out of my system. You can take over.
All right, so let's start off with the faction that I like. Personally, I like Mortarion's Chosen Sons.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the reason that I like this is a couple-fold. I'm not huge on their Warlord trait, and I'm not going to take it.
All right.
Well, I think I do have to take it because it's mandatory, but I'm not going to put it on my actual general guy. Well, I'm not going to put it on my beat stick guy. The reason that I chose this is for the Plague Brewers. Okay. For 1 CP, you can use this stratagem to start your shooting phase when Mortarion's Chosen Son from the unit is selected to shoot. Until the end of that phase, Plague Belchers, Plague Spurt Gauntlets, Plague Spewers models in the unit are equipped with have a damage characteristic of 2.
Oof, that is serious. Double damage flamers.
Yeah, it's
I like this a lot.
It's really strong. It's really good against the current meta.
Yep.
And as you're going to see here, I'm going to pretty much go all in on Plague Spewers, Plague Spurt Gauntlets, and Plague Belchers.
All right, so we're getting kind of a twofer here. We're talking about we're deep diving flamers, and we're going through a list. So right. I dig it.
So now is a good time to talk about why. Why am I going into flamers? Why is this going to be my choice here? And a lot of it comes back to Drakari. How do I counter them?
Mm-hmm.
And it's Overwatch. So
Yeah.
I only get really one unit that allows me to Overwatch. You'll see that a lot of my stuff's going to be deep striking, but what's on the table is essentially able to Overwatch with lots of flamer weapons, which auto hit, and witches and things like that are not very durable. So while I cannot use this stratagem in the charge phase, I don't need to, because the reason that they're there is not necessarily for they're just there to deter people from charging me, which I really
Yeah.
don't want them to be charging me. But if they do charge me, whatever, that's fine. I will Overwatch and burn them down.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think that's a fine play.
So their Warlord trait is, again, it's not great. While this enemy is within contagion range of a model with this contagion, Nurgle's Fruit, models in that unit do not receive the benefit of cover against attacks. Not great, not bad,
Hmm.
but you got to be really close. And at that point, what are we talking about? Maybe you can use it for a charge, right?
So
Because
Contagion Range grows. Is that the one that grows over time? It
it
starts.
does.
Yeah. Okay.
Starts at like 1 inch, then it's like 3 inches, 6 inches, 9 inches.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe turn 3, you start getting some play out of it at 6 inches, maybe. Okay.
Well, right, but also like correct me if I'm wrong, but you can now like set to defend where you get like +1 to your save from charges
Sure.
for
Yeah. I mean,
certain
you
cover.
can. Yeah, you can definitely play the table and choose to. If you got a nice spot in cover and you can have a good defensible position. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, well, I'm no. What I'm saying is, would this negate that? I think it does.
Oh, I see what you're
So you
saying.
like if you
Yes.
charge in, someone sets to defend, you charge in, you hit them, and this could necessarily negate that if
Yeah,
someone's here.
if you're in some sort of heavy cover, you're right. You're going to get a +1 to your armor save, and that's the benefit of the cover you're in.
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely. Nice. Good
The
play.
other thing that I really like here is the relic. Uh, I don't even know how to pronounce it. The Vomtrix, the
Oh boy.
Vomit Tricks, Vomit Rix. I don't know. It's vomity something.
Of course it is.
So this replaces the. I believe his name is the Vile Plague Spewer.
You have so many types of flamers here. You're going to have to, yeah,
Yeah, I know. I
yeah,
know.
show us the units that go with them because it's all kind of a blur here.
I'm sorry, the
Plague
Foul Blight
Spewer.
Spawn. And people should be pretty familiar with this guy. He was pretty popular back in the day against flyer spam. But
Oh yeah.
basically, the Foul Blight Spawn, he has a Plague Sprayer, and it's 12 inches, assault d6, does strength 7, AP -3, damage 2, and it's a plague weapon. So automatically hits,
Okay.
flamethrower.
Right.
Strength 7's not great.
Yeah.
It's in a kind of a crappy place, but whatever. I'm trying
So,
to think if there's any benefit to that. There really isn't. But you got to also remember that a lot of stuff that he might be plague spraying here has the potential of being at -1 toughness as well, which means that toughness 4 guys
oh,
are
that's
getting
fair.
wounded on 2s. He's got putrefying stink, and this is the real reason that I bring this guy, is at the start of the fight phase, you can select one enemy unit within 3 inches of this model. That unit cannot fight, is not eligible to fight until after all other eligible units have done so. And you see this on a lot of books nowadays where you'll have
Yeah.
one character that kind of does something like this, and I think this guy is great. I usually use him to kind of hang out with one of my big killer units, maybe like my Death Shrouds or like Terminators, depending on what I'm taking. And he's great for just kind of hanging out with them. And then if someone charges me, I can just be like, yeah, no, you're going to go after me. So again,
Okay.
another reason that I'm saying, hey, go, you can go ahead and charge this unit. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you fight last.
Well, if you think about it too, so okay, so what's just to recap the ranges real quick? What's the range on that fight last or don't fight
It's three
ability?
inches.
3 inches. Okay, and the relic flamer is 12 inches. What's the difference between the relic and his base again?
So instead of doing a D6 shots, he always
Okay.
does 7.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I like this guy. And then, do you give him that warlord trait? Is this the guy that takes your warlord trait from from your Mortarian's Chosen Sons faction?
Honestly, it doesn't matter. He can take
Okay.
it. One of uh, the wizard, the Malignant Plaguecaster, could also take it.
Okay, but this guy's threatening enough just with that relic. I mean, at 12 inches too. That's if you get okay. So if you get within 12 inches of these guys, not only are you going to have to worry about, you know, this guy's relic flamer and the guys
Mhm.
he's with, but now you're close enough for like a move and a charge and a fight last, or you have to either commit and charge in. So he puts a lot of pressure on people. I really like that guy.
Yeah, he's, in my opinion, really good. Now, there might be people saying, "Oh, well, you could take." He's got a relic specific to him called the Revolting Stench Vats,
Okay.
and basically, it gives him an aura of 6 inches that units around him count as. Basically, okay, so I'll just read it. So while the enemy unit is within 6 inches of the bear, the unit cannot make use of any rules that allow it to fight first. Never counts as having made a charge move this turn, irrespective of the abilities that the unit may have. So you
Mhm.
might be like, "Oh, take that." Well, interesting in the wording is basically this says that it doesn't allow units to fight first and never
Mhm.
counts the unit as having made a charge move this turn. Um,
Hmm.
that's good, but again, I was kind of in my head thinking, "Oh, Drukari," and they got a lot of stuff that makes you fight last. They have a lot of stuff that fights first, which is great, but they also have a lot of stuff that make you fight last after
Yeah.
all eligible units, and that's why I like this guy's fight last after all eligible units. I don't know how that actually plays out if both
Oh
armies do
man.
the same thing, but you'll just have to be
Right.
smart about it. In my head against Drukari again, I haven't actually got a chance to play this against Drukari, but my thought process here is usually as a Drukari player myself, I'm going to all in with a lot of units and charge in. Um, my counter with this list is one unit's going to pay for Overwatch, try to decimate a unit
Mhm.
that's coming in. The other unit is probably going to have this foul blight spawn hanging out with them, so that when they get charged, I'm going to try to make that unit go last, so that these
Yeah.
guys can swing before, trying to basically head off a devastating charge as much as possible. So that's the plan
Yeah, it
there.
makes sense.
So side note, if you do take Mortarion, he's your warlord. You don't have to worry about the Snurgle's fruit thing. If you're not taking
Hmm.
Mortarion, then I usually put this on my Plaguecaster, mainly because my Plaguecaster is kind of usually hanging out in the middle of the battlefield around all the other troops. He's not necessarily getting it mixed in, although I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
Uh, but that kind of prevents if someone was like, "Hey, you're taking a caster as your warlord. I'm going to take this ability to try to kill you first turn, second turn, or whatever for secondaries." I tend to keep this guy a little more safe than the Foul Blight Spawn's going to be.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the only reason that I tend to put that on my wizard.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
That
I
being
like
said, you
mixing
got
it
to
up
remember
though.
that you can outbreak with this army,
Mm-mm.
right? So
Okay,
I
you
can
want to run us
spread
through that real quick? I'm not too
right.
familiar. Outbreak's the thing where you're basically like buffing your contagion, right? And
Yeah, flash
you're kind of
outbreak. It's 2 CP, and for the turn, I can basically pick one of the contagions that is on one of my heroes and apply that to a unit. So if I need,
nice.
let's say, if I need access to this, which I never have, but the options there. The problem with this chapter play company is that this is probably the worst warlord trait.
Yeah.
As far as Nurgle cares, I don't know how much I care about people being in cover. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on.
Okay. I mean, I will say though, like a lot of the flamers that don't have a lot of AP, negating cover on some flamers is kind of like adding an AP sometimes. So
It's not
there's
bad.
and a lot of people do hang out around those -1 or they'll try to put -1s between you, right? So I mean, there's some stuff there, but I do see your point for sure.
There is play. It's very situational
Yeah.
though,
Yeah.
and it's an option in your tool belt. The problem is your contagion range is usually so small, and
Yeah.
it becomes difficult to. It's not like Imperial Fist where the whole army just kind of ignores cover. It's not
Yeah.
quite the same thing. Anyway,
All
so
right.
let's go ahead and dig into why I like this list and kind of how it works. So the very first, my HQ, and again, this is not going to be my general, but I like to take the Lord of Virulence. Man,
Jesus.
there's so many names in this, and I'm going to slaughter
Stinky
them.
Lord.
Yeah, so this is the new guy with the twin plague spewer. He's in Terminator armor.
What a cool model though.
Yeah,
Man.
he is pretty cool. He's got a plague gauntlet, so everything he has is poison. I'm a big fan of this guy. At first, I hated him
Yeah.
because I thought he was kind of lame, but the more I've used him, the more I love him. That being said, I'm going to make one assumption here, and I have yet to have anybody kind of disagree with my interpretation. But on this guy, I like to take the deadly pathogen, vicious death. So each time you roll to determine the number of attacks made with this weapon, you can re-roll the result. The reason I like this so much is because he's a heavy 2d6 plague spewer.
Oh
So if you don't
man.
like the result of your heavy 2d6, you can re-roll that.
Oh yes.
The reason that this guy is a little controversial to me is because in the list of plague brewers for the CP that we were talking about earlier with the 2 damage, it does say that plague spewers get this, but he's got a twin plague spewer. Now, traditionally, like twin heavy bolters and everything like that, twin shuriken cannons, they've always been treated as shuriken cannons for the rules.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that he also can benefit from the CP, but there's no
Okay.
official ruling on this. I've sent the email out to GW saying, "Hey, can
Nice.
you
Okay.
address this?" But they never seem to.
Yeah,
So
that's a tricky one, man. That really is. I don't know that we've seen a relic so specific that it would like really matter. Like like it's not like there's another model that has a single plague spewer that kind of puts you in the same position where it's a character and uh,
mhm.
yeah, I'm just trying to look here. It's tricky because all the damn weapons are the same. Like plague sprayer, plague spewer, heavy. Now I think you would get in trouble if it was like you were trying to use it on a heavy plague spewer versus a something else. Because a heavy versus a light, right? It's like if you had a relic bolter, you couldn't side on the side of a heavy
Right,
bolter, right?
right. But this is essentially just
Yeah.
2 plague spewers.
I
So
think you're cool. I think you're good.
we'll see what happens. As of now, I usually just check with my opponent while we play. Hey, look, here's this thing. What are your thoughts? If they really have a problem with it, then I'm not going to do it. I have plenty of other things I can use that on.
Yeah, cool.
But so it's a heavy 2d6, 12 inches. This guy can teleport in if I need him to.
Oh yeah.
Strength 5 flamer. So it's basically a heavy flamer. Strength 5, minus 1 AP, 1 damage. Automatically hits. And it's a plague weapon. So that's reroll ones to wound, right?
Nice. Nice.
I mean,
Yeah, man, that's
strength and strength 5 is nice because that
yep.
means you're wounding most things on threes, re-rolling ones, even things like custodians. If you can get close enough, you're going to be wounding them on threes, re-rolling ones,
Yep.
uh, and being able to re-roll that. Oh, I'm sorry, because his twin heavy spurt is a plague weapon or not a plague contagion. It's actually strength 6,
Okay.
so you're actually
Cool.
wounding. If you get close enough to things like space runes, you're actually wounding them on twos with re-rolls.
Oh
So
no.
yeah,
Oh,
this guy.
oh my gosh, what's the minus toughness range? Like how does that scale? What is that again?
Well, it's 1 inch at turn
Okay.
1, then it's
Okay.
3 inches turn 2, and then it's 6 inches. So
Yeah, that's good. Man, these guys sneak up on you. They've got a lot of really tricky stuff where well, and you know what's interesting? There's not a lot of models that are fast that are durable. So you get close enough to these guys and you realize you fucked up and then all of a sudden your toughness is down. It's kind of hard to get away.
right.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
So I love this guy, and then I usually spend a command point on him to make him an arch contaminator. It's a warlord trait. So while friendly plague company core units within 6 inches of this warlord, each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack with a plague weapon, you can reroll the wounds, reroll the wound rolls. So
Oh,
that's really good. On
savage.
top of that, each time a model in this unit makes a range attack with a plague weapon, the target is within 12 inches, which all my flamers are 12 inches, which means they're always going to be in this
Yeah.
range. You can re-roll the wound roll.
Oh, dude. Flamers going up to 12 inches is nuts.
Right.
Oh,
So
this is
now,
cool.
so now we're talking about re-rolling wound rolls. Is going to bring me to the next part of really like this guy, Master of Destruction Aura. While friendly plague company core units within 6 inches of this model, each time a model in this unit makes a range attack with a plague weapon, an unmodified wound roll of a 6 improves the armor pen by 1. So
Yes.
now my plague spewers are doing -2 on 6s. I get reroll wounds. Um, try to fish for those 6s.
Yeah, dude,
They're
that's like
really
the
blinging the flame damage here.
yeah, that's the epitome of wow. Man. Okay, so way back in the day, okay, people look at this now, and I got in a discussion the other day with somebody about this. People look at, 6s to wound, negative AP. That's old, that's not good anymore. That was the first warlord trait. That was the Storm of Fire trait from Marines that everybody took, and there was no question. So I do think it ages well. I still think it has a lot of play, and a lot of armies will take that stuff. Man.
Yeah, it's not the end all be all, but man, it's like a free nice to have, and
Yep.
I'm usually going to want this guy kind of honestly teleporting in somewhere and kind of helping out where he needs to help out is how I like this guy. So turn 2, I can drop him where I need him, and then like I said, his buff aura is really going to help. He's going to be within 12 inches, so he can just start flamethrowing guys. He's awesome.
Yeah, this is cool. All right, I'm digging it.
All right, so next I have 2 Malignant Playcasters. So there's really nothing too special about these guys. You can kind of take whatever spells you want here. Let me pull up my list.
So these are the unique mono pose models, right? With the flame, they're not like you don't. What you can take a sorcerer, right? Like there's another caster,
You
right?
can take a Death Guard sorcerer.
But this is the plague caster,
right?
All right.
So the Death Guard. I mean, so the big difference between the two is I really like this guy's Pestilent Fallout. Each time a model successfully manifests a psychic power, if the result of the test was a 7 or more, the closest enemy unit within 12 just suffers a mortal wound.
Oh, that's so annoying.
Yeah, it's just one more thing I'm adding to the mortal wounds, especially if I start using these guys to do like Curse of the Leper, which is one of the spells I really like. Especially if you can get in your get like your one of your models within that contagion range, so you're -1 toughness. So usually you're rolling like a 4+ to do mortal wounds on 7 dice.
Damn, nice dude. Okay, cool.
So I usually give Gift of Contagion and Gift of Plagues. And then the other one I like Miasma of Pestilence and Curse of the Leper. So and again, you can kind of switch that stuff around as you want. I'll be honest, a lot of times these guys are smiting too, so
yeah,
it's really up to you. And one of the things, they can cast 2 spells a turn, so there's a lot of flexibility here. I usually make one of these guys my general with, like I said, if given that warlord trait. And don't sleep on these guys in close combat either, though, because they do have 4 attacks. They hit on 3s. Their staff gives them strength 7,
what?
-1 D3 damage, plague weapon, so reroll 1s.
Jeez, strength 7.
Strength 7, yeah. So these guys are actually,
and you're probably at -1 toughness.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
so
my god,
these guys are pretty darn strong. They're usually wounding anything that they hit on 2s with the reroll 1s. So these guys can mix it up. Don't be afraid to mix it up with them.
Wow.
Again, everything is a little bit of everything at your disposal because you're a pretty elite army.
Man, that's crazy. I love casters in combat, just because of being able to smite and stuff in combat too. It adds up so quickly. If you're bleeding them out with this one mortal, basically every time you cast, I mean, most of the time you're fishing for what, 5, 6, 7 on your powers. So most of the time, if your powers are going off, you're getting an extra mortal. He's getting some wounds through with this D3 damage staff. He's going to smite. He's going to, man.
Yeah. I mean, they're good. They're good. For sure. Let's jump into the troops here.
Cool.
So I have 2 units of 10 Poxwalkers. There's really not much to say here. There's some strats to make them a little more durable, kind of keep them in the game.
Okay.
I tend to take the stratagem for infecting objectives, and I usually just take the D3 mortal wounds, and I'll usually knock out 2 of these with 2 units of Poxwalkers. Whatever, I don't really care.
Yeah. Okay.
The second one I usually do with the Plague Marines. It sucks to take the D3 mortals on them, but it's worth the secondary objective points. So I'll do it all day, every day.
That's a controversial secondary, right? I think we both really like that, but I think there's people out there who don't really understand the I don't know, I guess how easy it is to get, maybe. Like it seems kind of like fluffy and weird, but it's a good one.
So here's the thing. The Death Guard, I think they have one that you want your opponent to flee, which I'll talk about. It's an option in my list. It's not the greatest option, but it's an option.
Okay.
I think this one is the best because it's the easiest to score on. Like I said, you got to take D3 mortal wounds to automatically trigger it, which again, I usually don't care.
Yeah.
And I with this army, I also tend to play like domination because I know I'm not going to be like hanging out on all the board corners. I know I'm not going to be doing everything, but what I can do is just go sit on objectives and try to be durable. And that's how I play this list. I can't chase you
Cool.
around the board. I'm not going to yeah. So
All right. Yeah.
we can jump into that later, but my thought process here is I usually want to take domination. I usually, since I'm going to be wanting to sit on objectives anyway, I tend to take this as well. And if I have to roll for it, sure, that's fine. But it honestly, I don't mind necessarily taking the mortal wounds here either.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the end of the world. And
Okay.
if I can get 4 objectives with my poxwalkers over the course of the game, great.
Yeah, dude,
That
consistent points are good points, man. You don't always have to max everything. People go into this and they try to max every single secondary, and then they drop 2 of them and they're out a ton of points and lose. Consistent points are good.
yep. So I'm a fan.
Yeah.
All right, so the main unit in this is going to be these plague marines here. So I take 10
Yes.
plague marines, 5 of them with the bolt guns. Plague champion. I here I actually like this guy. Spend a CP on him to give him the demonic blade and the plague bringer.
Ooh.
And what I was saying earlier was this guy. I like him a lot. He actually is doing really well for me for multiple reasons. And it's not something I originally looked at ever. I was playing around with how do I get people to run in combat? And
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like, oh, the Terminators, and you can make their bravery so bad, and blah, blah, blah. Well, uh, the Plague Bringer, so for 1 CP, you can give a weapon, a relic to one of your sergeants, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Plague Bringer, it replaces a Bale Sword, Demonic Plague Blade, or Plague Knife. It's a poison or plague weapon plus 2 strength, minus 3 AP for 2 damage,
Oh man.
versus plus 1 strength, minus 1 damage.
Wow.
So way better, right?
Wow. Yeah.
But also listen to this. Each time a model is destroyed as a result of making an attack with this weapon, that model counts as destroyed models as 2 destroyed models for the purposes of morale tests.
Oh man. Dude, this dude's on track to be a demon prince. This guy's gonna be slaying.
Right. So he's got 3 attacks
Yeah.
at strength 6, which
6, yeah.
means that most things he's fighting in close combat are going to be toughness 3 because of our
Jeez,
aura,
this is
which means that
crazy.
he's wounding everybody on 2s with reroll 1s. So
And he's hidden. He's just kind of nestled in this unit
yeah,
of stinky boys.
so when he does hit stuff, it the fact that even if he just kills like man, if you can kill 2 guys with this thing, it counts as 4 casualties.
Dang.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, wow.
Not to mention what these plague marines can do in close combat. Anyway, so the rest of
Yeah,
the
wow.
unit is I take 2 plague spitters and then I take 2 plague spewers. So I have a total of 4 flamethrowers in this unit. If you
Okay.
remember, all 4 of these can be benefit from the CP strat, so they can all be buffed up to 2 damage.
Oh, yeah.
Um, the plague spewer, like I said, strength 5 minus 1 damage. The plague belcher is strength 4, no AP, 1 damage.
Right, okay.
So this is where those 6s actually become really useful, because anytime these guys get the 6, it's kind of a big deal. Now you might be saying,
Yeah.
well, strength 4 versus strength 5. Again, if you're able to get these guys in your contagion range, which this is why I brought the sorcerer, who can extend the contagion range so that these
Yep.
guys can try to be flamethrowing people that are closer. The strength 5 and strength 4 is really negligible. You don't really care. You're going to be wounding most things on 3s anyway. And then there's one other little thing that make these guys work, right? So you can use the character to buff their plague weapons. You got the caster who can extend the plague range of them, or someone that can be near a unit that you're shooting at. And then my favorite part of this whole thing is there's a stratagem, and I'm looking for it.
Oh, I think I know what you're going for.
You do know what I'm looking for.
So these guys, yeah, okay. I'm just following along here. So this upgrading the sergeant
Right.
stuff is, yeah, wow.
Overwhelming generosity. So for 1 CP, use the stratagem in your shooting phase when the Death Guard unit from your army is selected to shoot. Until the end of that phase, add 6 inches to the range characteristics of plague weapons.
Oh no. Oh
Which
no.
is all the flamers are plague weapons.
18-inch
So now I got an
flamers?
18-inch flamers. So you got your 5-inch
What?
movement. You can extend the range out to 18. Now you're looking at like a 23-inch threat range with flamethrowers.
Dang. I always say
That you
getting
can pop the
above.
strat. Do
Yeah.
2 damage.
Yeah.
You can drop in your Terminator.
Oh, here we go.
You can we'll get to it, but I got plague drones, which I can be throwing out there trying to spread the contagion aura to units that I want to bring down. So it's amazing how much damage these guys flamethrowers can really do.
Dude, yeah, I always light up when I start to see the combos start to unfold, and like that's happening right now. So I'm finally seeing it. I can picture this unit on the board. I always think there's like an 18-inch bubble that if you can extend your threat range beyond that 18 inches, you start to have like a serious impact on the game.
Right.
And that right there, that's amazing.
Yeah, and to keep in mind, this is any Death Guard unit that was shooting. So
Oh man,
if my
it is.
we'll get into it, but like this could be the twin plague spewer, right? On my general,
Oh no,
I don't. He's not my general,
the
but
7-shot gun.
yeah. Well, no. Well, it could
Oh
be
no,
him. It could be the 7 shotgun. It could be the guy with the 2d6
Oh
with
man,
reroll how many shots. It could be this unit. I'm about to talk about Death Shrouds, which they all have hand flamers at strength 3. It could be them.
wow. Okay,
This
this is
could
your strat you're using every turn. This is the one. There's
this
always
is
like one or two, you know.
right. This one you want to be using every turn.
Dang.
Most likely, obviously, if you don't have to, great. That means everything you want to shoot at's in range. But this is definitely, and again, it's 1 CP. The other strat that you're going to want to be using again is the boosted damage if you need it. That's another CP. This is kind of where you want to live.
Wow. Yeah, this is great. Now I'm seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
2 damage, auto hitting flamers with some rerolling on wounds at extended range, possibly ignoring cover.
Right.
Yep.
And you
I'm
don't want to
seeing it.
charge this unit either because now you got 46 shots coming at you with
Nope.
flamers, which is going to hurt. It's not going to
Yep.
be fun.
Yep. Nope. I now want to be 24 inches away. Yeah, this is good.
Right. So that's our core.
Hmm.
We'll go ahead and move into the elite, which again we take the foul blight spawn. He's got the other flamer with the the 7 shots, which I think is a great. This guy, don't sleep on him because his actual flamethrower does a ton of damage.
And now refresh my memory. You're not taking the Arch Contaminator aura, right? As your warlord trait, you're taking something else. Arch Contaminator is like the reroll all wounds.
I do have that.
You do have that. Okay.
I spend 1 CP to buy that one.
Okay, that's right. I forgot you could do that now. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I spend 1 CP to buy that for my not warlord,
Right.
but who's really kind of the leader of my army.
All right, I'm tracking.
So I take 5 Death Shrouds, Terminators. I give them, I believe I gave them the chimes because I had 15 points.
And what do those do?
It just adds 3 inches to your contagion range. So
Nice. Why not?
up to a maximum of 12. So these guys, I can teleport them down in, which is what I usually do. All of them are armed with Plague Spurt Gauntlets, which are like little hand flamers, 12 inches, pistol D6, strength 3, 1 damage, plague weapon. And you can upgrade the champion to have an additional hand flamer. I also tend to give this champion a contagion weapon of technically, like, people have their different opinions on it. Personally,
Yeah.
I like to give this guy the one with the exploding 6s to hit.
Yeah, why not? I mean, every time you roll hot, it's gonna feel amazing.
So, I mean, he's got 5 attacks, and every time you make a sweep, you can make 2 attacks. So I mean, he does 10 attacks. So fishing for exploding 6s, I mean, that just seems the way to go with this guy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they're kind of hinting at it. I mean, when they do stuff like that, I mean, I think you're supposed to pick up on those little clever moments. So I think you just go for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then it gives him +1 strength on his scythe, so he's technically sitting at strength 6, which again, if you're at -1 toughness, he's wounding on 2s, rerolling 1s.
Holy crap!
So in combat, they're nasty. Like I said, they also have all these flamers, so they're all strength 3.
Yep.
Contagion range is a little tricky here. This is the unit that I really like to use the the spell to extend my contagion.
I was going to bring that up. Yes, that's amazing. There's a spell you can cast. I think
Yep.
it's like the last one on the table, I think. But
Yeah,
it has to deal with Contagion Range, which is cool.
we can go over that here real quick.
All right, cool. So let me see. And these guys' flamers are also pistol, right? So you're shooting them in combat.
They are.
Yeah, very cool.
They are pistol.
I
So
wish. Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, so it's Gift of Plagues, and this is one of my wizards. Our plague casters have this. It's goes off on a 6 until the end of the next psychic phase. Add 6 inches to the range of any contagion abilities. So these guys are dropping in turn 2, which means that their contagion range is 3 inches. I give them the chimes, so that's another 3. You cast the spell, now you're at 12.
Oh wow!
So now they have a 12-inch bubble, and if you can, ideally, I like to drop these guys in where I can hit a couple units and really pull them into the contagion aura. So now that, if I'm shooting my troops from 18 inches away, I'm still getting the contamination aura from these guys. So this is kind of how I use them. I want to drop them in. They're gonna basically bring that aura of -1 toughness around, try to hit as many units as they can. They're gonna shoot 1 unit themselves. They're gonna be wounding most things on 4s, but you get to reroll 1s. And on 6d6 shots, you're surprised how much damage these guys again can put out.
Oh yeah,
like
that's pretty good. And they're plague weapons, so it's strength 3 isn't horrible. You're getting -1 toughness, and they're plague weapons.
Right, and these guys are a combat unit, so people don't really think about what their flamers can do, but
yeah,
they can do a lot. And then, spoiler alert,
oh,
you could also drop your Terminator by these guys, so that on 6s they're doing -1 rend, and you can pop the stratagem on them, so all their little hand flamers, strength 3 hand flamers, are doing 2 damage.
Oh no! Are you serious?
Right. So you have options, more options upon options upon options.
God, you cannot get away from this flame combo. No matter, see, I'm looking at this list as you're saying. I'm like, okay, if I'm up against, I've never fought a list like this, by the way. All the flamers, this is really cool. If I'm up against this, usually can identify and avoid that 1-2 combo. But this is really strong because you can put that 1-2 combo on 3 or 4 different units here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, everything is situational. It depends on what's shooting what at what time.
Yeah.
These guys are great for the 2 damage just because of the sheer amount of dice that you're rolling, right? 6d6 shots. I mean, I've shot these guys into like a large unit of cultists before, and I mean they just they're just gone.
Yeah, and they're Terminators, so they can deep strike on their own, right?
Right.
Yeah. Wow. So cool.
These guys are great. So the next unit, and this is these guys go into my not Mortarian list.
Okay.
10 Blight Lord Terminators.
Okay.
With 2 Plague Spitters. 2 Plague Spewers, right? Yep. I mean, these guys, they all have bubonic axes. I mean, I don't really know what to say. These guys are super durable. They're really tough.
What's what are we swinging at here?
The bubonic axe is +2 strength, so strength 6, -2, 1 damage, which pretty much makes everything that you're attacking twos to wound, reroll 1s.
Dude, getting above that strength 5 base before your aura is,
it's so good.
Taken in. That's just nuts.
So, I mean, these guys all have 3 wounds apiece. We all know the Death Guard rule, reduce 1 damage. They're not going anywhere. They have a 4+ invulnerable. And then 10 of them that you can just teleport down again to flamers. So if you want, you can do all the flamer shenanigans with these guys too. If someone charges you, you could overwatch and guarantee that you're going to get some flamer hits, plus all their combi bolters means that anything that wants to charge these guys are going to punish. They're just super durable. And this is the reason why if I'm not taking Mortarian, I'm dropping 400 points into these guys. Because it's like 30 wounds and they're just really hard to kill. You throw like the -1 to hit on this unit, they're not going anywhere. You can drop them in the center of the board and they're pretty much just going to be there all game.
Yeah.
You can use this. I like using this strat on these guys. You can make all their combi bolters plague weapons.
Oh man.
Then you can increase the range if they're kind of out of range of stuff. If your lord's next to them now, I mean,
Oh yeah.
6s are an extra -1 AP. Like these guys, they're good. They're sturdy. They're not very fast. So I personally like to just kind of teleport them down and let them do their thing. But
Wow.
again, like I said, most of this army is not very fast. A lot of it is the speed is coming from the teleportation. It's also coming from the fact that I don't necessarily need to be fast. I'm going to take objectives. I'm going to sit on them. They are mine. If you come near me, I'm going to make you pay with flamers and
Yep. Yep.
combat. And
I mean, just getting in combat with this stuff isn't even an option. I mean, this stuff will mulch everything.
yeah, it will.
I don't even know. And I know we were talking before about leadership and all that, and the one plague marine guy that can reduce leadership. But you have another strat too for a straight up -4, right? When you kill
Right.
stuff in
Yeah,
combat.
and these guys. So, and this is where I'm saying, like, if you want to take that one as one of your secondaries,
Mm-hmm.
it works in this list. I've done it before. The downside is people don't want to get in combat with you,
Yeah.
so it makes it a little difficult to use those kind of strats.
Yeah, no, it's fair, and I mean, I guess it's there for the armies that really have no
Yeah.
other option.
Ideally, these guys usually kill anything they touch anyway, so things
Boy.
usually aren't running away. I
Yeah,
don't know. I personally, again, I like to just take the hit on the mortal wounds and just try to score stuff.
yeah,
This unit is ridiculously good.
man.
Probably undercosted. You'll probably see some point changes, but
I don't know how
uh,
you kill 400 whatever points of those guys. I mean, I really
it's
don't. I don't think you do, and I don't know. I don't know if you're starved for that magical third secondary that you really have to switch up every game. You know how there's always one or two that just doesn't work, but
mhm.
these guys aren't going to disappear. So I know there's always the while we stand. I think it's called.
Yeah,
This unit's not going anywhere.
it's not. It really is not.
Mm,
The Death Shroud Terminators, they tend to die quite a bit.
yeah,
But again, I usually that's okay. If people are shooting them, that's fine.
yeah, no,
They're
absolutely.
super durable. They'll soak a lot of fire. I drop them in mainly for their extended contagion range as much as possible. Um,
That's a cool trick, though.
these guys are pretty cool. Again, one of the things that you were saying is this unit is probably the one unit once they're buffed up and extended. I might consider doing the flash outbreak on them so they have a 12-inch minus or ignore cover bubble from the previous thing, which
Yeah.
is more useful in some situations. So just kind of keep that in mind. So this is all my elite. Going over to the fast attack, we
Hey,
have.
I got a question real
Yeah,
quick
sure. Go
about
ahead.
those guys. So I noticed this in passing, but they have the remorseless keyword, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure is a version of fearless, right? So if you take a brick of 10 of these guys, or whatever you were talking about, 450, 500 points, you're not going to lose them to morale, correct?
So no, remorseless.
I mean, not that you're killing. I mean, you're not going to be killing more than one of these guys in a volley anyway. But I'm just trying to chug through some of these words here.
Now, so
Um,
each time a combat attrition test is taken for the unit, ignore any all modifiers. So that's the
okay, I gotcha.
on ones I lose an additional model.
Okay,
So like
yeah, that's not good.
the
Okay,
chances of losing them is pretty low.
yeah, all right.
I think what if you're under half, you have like a +1 year roll, stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's some other tricks to get it. I
I
think
know
one or two armies have a 1 or 2 modifier.
Drakari have ways to make you reduce. These guys have ways
Okay,
to reduce that too.
fair enough.
I
Okay,
don't I don't think it's the end all be all. It's not something I really think about too much. And
yeah, I
honestly,
mean, yeah,
these guys
okay.
are pretty durable. So I'm not. It's usually not a concern, but you're right. It is a bonus.
And disgustingly resilient is just -1 damage now, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
-1
Okay.
damage. They
Wow.
ignore movement modifiers as
Yeah,
the
this
whole
is
army
sick.
does.
Yeah, very good. Ugh,
And the
that's a
fast
nasty unit.
it is, and that's why like when you look at it, like you're like, oh man, Mortarion, he's so good and scary, but so is 10 Blight Lord
Yeah.
Terminators, and so I'll talk about just real quick. Well, let me finish the list because we're almost
Okay,
done.
sorry. I'm getting excited again.
That's fine. So in the fast attack, I have 3 plague drones, floated bloat drones. 2 of them have flesh mowers, and 1 of them have a plague spitter. So again, another plague spitter. It's not ideal. Honestly, if I had 5 extra points, this guy would probably also have a flesh mower.
Yeah.
But this is the one concession I made with this. But this guy's not terrible. I usually keep him back kind of with the rest of my army. He's got 2d6 plague spitter shots. He's assault, so he can run forward and shoot. You can use all the strats on him that we've talked about previously, so you can extend his range. So he moves 10. He can shoot up to 18 if you need him to for 28 inches threat range. This guy is a really good guy to just kind of sit maybe on a flank objective or something. Again, the flesh mowers are amazing. I usually want to throw these guys up in the combat.
Right.
Honestly, these are my fastest units, so they're usually kind of up front, hopefully soaking a lot of hits and shots and stuff. The great part about them is as they start taking hits, you can use stratagems and stuff to heal them as they start flesh mowing through things.
That's a problem. Yeah.
And the flesh mowers are disgusting if you don't know what they do. It's a melee attack. It's strength +1. They're already strength 6, so strength 7. It's not a great place, but whatever. They have the contagion aura still, so everything around it is usually toughness 3 or 4.
Oh, jeez.
-2 AP, and they do 2 damage. And the ridiculous part is each time a model makes an attack with this weapon, it has 3 attacks instead of 1.
Okay.
So their 4 attacks become 12. They have 12 attacks.
I call bullshit.
These guys are ridiculous. Not to mention there's a couple other really interesting little strats where, like, if they're within 6 inches of an enemy unit, you can heroically intervene with them.
Oh, that's so good.
So if you're sitting on an objective and you're saying this is mine, and someone tries to come up and say, I'm gonna get within capturing range, but I don't want to charge you, you say, I'm gonna come get you.
Man, that is so good. Heroic intervention, triggering that on single models with large bases like this guy, that is amazing. Now, can you only do it near an objective, or it's just in general? You just use the strat and you can heroically intervene, I guess.
Yeah, and it's crazy too because it's a 6-inch heroically intervene.
Of course it is. It's 6 inches. That's so nice. That's so good.
And these guys fly. I mean,
of course
they're so good. I love them.
Okay, now hold on a sec. Okay, so these guys, we're moving 10 inches with fly, pretty large base size. The nice thing about these two that I'm looking in your list is like they can push out and secure board space for your Terminators to arrive.
They do.
Because that's sometimes a big problem. I've seen that with my list when I'm playing elite armies. Like, very rarely, but you can get me where I can't drop my 350 or 450 points of Terminators turn 2 like I want to. But
and they reliably kill stuff too. So people who put the
AdMech dogs,
the infiltrator squad or something that's like up front, these guys will just turn 1, charge into them, and just turn them into mulch, and then now you can drop your Terminators turn 2.
This is great. Yeah.
I'm such a fan of these guys. I have I have 8 different bloat drones. I like the grenades. I like the flamers. Flamers are probably my least favorite in this list. I think they have some play.
Yeah.
Honestly, I never use the strats on these guys just because I feel like there's so many better options. And technically these guys usually die pretty quick because I kind of throw them out there.
Well, you can't let them hang around. That's for sure.
No, you can't. The final thing in my list is the Plague Burst Crawler.
Oh, you do have one of these.
I do have one of these, and I only take one, mainly because I think that they're best used with the 1-point strat to increase the damage of their mortar to, I believe, a flat 3, and it does it can splash damage to units around. It's not great, but it does. The entropy cannons are amazing. This guy has indirect fire, so you can shoot at that stuff that's hiding. All around, this guy's great. Honestly, he's so hard to kill, and he's behind plague drones. He's behind Terminators. That he's usually the last thing that my opponent's thinking about trying to deal with.
Yeah.
And this guy, like I said, like my Poxwalkers, I have all these little things that kind of just go under the radar that are doing things like scoring objectives and sitting on objectives and stuff like that. And there's too many other threats that are in my opponent's face that, all this stuff added together. I love playing this list. It's a ton of fun. The Overwatch capacity is amazing. Just the flamers, auto hits, 2 damage if you need it. If you're curious about, like a flame centric, just the visuals of just spitting sludge,
dude, it's amazing.
And bile spreading infection.
It's terrific.
Like this,
This
I've
is a
never had
Hellraiser movie. Let's
this.
face it.
This playing this Death Guard list is the most fun I've had playing a Death Guard army in a long time.
Nice.
And it's silly, it's fun to play.
Oh, yeah.
You just get straight enjoyment out of it. And it's super durable, hard to kill. No one's really shaking you off objectives.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, to
Wow.
me, this is great. If I could fit a second unit of those flamethrower space or plague marines in, I would. But I feel between, the two characters, the Death Shrouds, the Blight Lord Terminators, and this unit, I just have so many flamers everywhere.
That's incredible. And it's thematic. You're winning your way, like sometimes
Mhm.
that's really important and it usually makes your army suck. But in this case, the army's really good. Now
Yeah.
these drones and these the crawler, just so people know, these do have disgustingly resilient.
Yeah, absolutely. And specifically, I take these things instead of other options like Predators or
Right.
whatever because they come with that stuff.
Man, that is so nasty. And I've also I've gone against plague burst crawlers before a little while back when people were playing very aggressively.
Hmm.
And I think while that was powerful, and you basically have to ignore them, you completely lose the obsec game. And your approach here, I think, is really interesting because you're not taking three and shoving them up and just begging for someone to, surround them and take the objectives. You're leaving one back there, so he basically just gets all turn, every game or every turn to just shoot endlessly. You're not gonna base him and lock him up. You're not gonna surround him. You don't have to contest for an objective. He just gets to sit there. So those entropy cannons, I'm looking at, you have two of those.
Hmm.
D3+3 plague weapons. Oh my
Right.
god.
I mean, everything this
Yeah.
guy shoots is a plague weapon.
Nasty.
You can take the plague spitters on this guy, like you said, and be aggressive with them. But honestly, those entropy cannons are so good
Yeah.
that, in my mind, there's no reason not to take them. This guy's kind of my heavy armor punch now. Because of contagion auras and the way everything works and flamers and stuff like that, I can actually take down a lot of vehicles just by, using my flamethrowers
Yeah.
or some of my characters' flamethrowers, things like that. Yeah, you pop up the 2 damage. You can bring down armor pretty easily. Obviously, charging things is the easiest way, which is
Yep.
um, also an option.
Wow.
Uh,
That's
so,
really great.
real quick, I just want to go over the Morty swap here.
All right, cool.
So
Let's dig in.
to swap for Morty, I change one of those blight drones, the one with the plague spitters. I just give him a flesh mower, so I get 5
Okay.
points there. I drop the 10 Terminators, the
All
400
right.
point squad, so that's gone.
Man.
And I drop one of the Malefic Plaguecasters,
Okay.
and then I slot Morty in.
That's a lot of stuff to. Well, I guess you don't lose. So you're really
Well, so
losing. Okay.
Morty is a caster himself.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Um, he's about as durable as those Terminators
Right.
are. He can
Right.
put out quite a bit of damage. I don't know if he can put out as much damage as those Terminators, but he's fast. He's faster.
Man.
He gets around the board and he does his thing. If
And
you,
he's a target though. Man, he is such a
he is,
target.
he's gonna soak pretty much. The way I usually play him is I make him as durable as possible. I make it so you can't do the rerolls against him in combat. I make it so he's -1 to hit, hopefully with a spell.
Yep.
I usually just, if you're going to spend two, even if I can get away with 2 turns, which usually he lasts all game, to be honest. But
Right.
if I can get away with 2 turns of someone's army focusing all their attention on him to take him out, that usually means I'm in a pretty good place at the
Yeah,
rest
that
of the
sounds
board.
bad. Gosh.
Um,
So the trick though is he has to be your warlord, right?
he does.
So, but you can still buy the other plague caster or whomever another trait.
Correct.
So you're not really losing. A lot of times that's what sucks, when you take these named
Well,
characters, you
so
lose that key trait.
interesting thing with Morty is that he gets a couple command traits.
Okay. Of course.
So actually, usually in this build, I don't spend the extra CP because I'm already pretty If you've noticed, I'm pretty CP starved now.
Yeah.
Usually, I'm spending 3 CP a turn is where I
Mm-hmm.
try to live, and that usually lasts me the entire game. But obviously, if I need to spend more, I do. I don't bother wasting CP on rerolls. It's just a waste, in my opinion. I try to build
Yep.
my rerolls into my list.
Yeah, I think that's smart. There's a whole topic there in itself, I think. But yeah.
All right, so he gets one of the Plague Company Warlord traits. So that's one of his abilities. So that's
Okay.
where I take the one where you can't use any rerolls to hit, wound, or saves or whatever. That's
Yep.
just super good. You should probably always take that.
Yeah.
Um, he also gets where is it?
Man, he's toughness 8 now too. I kind of forgot that went up. It's pretty big.
Uh,
So this is different than the stuff in his ability list, right? You're talking about the stuff you can choose from.
yeah,
Okay.
I thought he
Um,
got an extra command trait though.
well, I do see that it says like you can choose one at the start of the first battle round.
Yeah, that's the host of plagues.
Okay, so
All
that's
right,
the
at
one
the
you're taking.
yeah, at the start of the first battle round, you get to choose one.
Okay. He
When
does
a
have
flaming
like
death guard core
toxic
unit,
presence and stuff. Maybe
small
that's what you're
accounts as
thinking of.
being battle round. No, that's just he's always a 12 inches
Oh, for
aura.
his contagions, right?
Or
Yeah,
is it
which
9
is
inches? It might be 9 inches.
still
I'll
it's
have to double check.
savage. I mean, with a 12-inch move, you're getting him where he needs to be. Um, anyway,
Well, maybe it's just built into him. Let me just check the command
sure.
traits here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just built into him. He comes with revoltingly resilient, right?
Okay.
So he ignores wounds on a 5. He's got living plague, which is while enemy units within 3 inches, warlord can't be affected by aura abilities. Which again, like you might be like, oh, you already have that. Why take the other one? Well, the other one's a little more inclusive, and it kind of covers a wider base and a bigger aura, and it's just I think better all around. And then he comes with Arch Contaminator.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay.
So
That's fair. So now you're getting all your
yeah.
rerolls.
Now I don't know if you can pick the same one twice, so I don't think you can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at that point, I just I just take him, save the CP. I don't bother upgrading the other guy. The other guy's still great though.
Man, you know what's crazy about him too is I'm trying to picture this army on the board now, the smaller board this edition, and you still have the death shrouds, which can deep strike. You still have the drones to push up. So you're not losing any reach really by losing the 400 man or 400 point Terminator squad. Like that was your key reach unit. But if you think about it, you start 24 inches away. He moves 12 inches. Your center board roughly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you advance. I don't know what you do with him. I don't know how you play him. So maybe you advance and just psychic power out. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But turn 2 comes around. You're basically center of the board. So you're 12 inches from the deployment zone. That's 3 inches different from where the Terminators could have landed. You could have landed, let's assume, 9 away. I mean, he's in the same spot, and now you're not losing any presence, and you're not losing any reach if you think about it. Because my
Mm-hmm.
first assumption was, okay, as soon as you include Mortarion, your army moves as slow as the slowest moving piece, which is now him. But in reality, if you look at it, in a top-down perspective, nothing changed.
Nothing really changes.
Yeah, that's really
Honestly,
cool.
the difference between these two lists is so negligible, in my opinion. Um, Basically, what you're swapping for is if you have Mortarion, what I have noticed is my opponent spends all this effort trying to kill him. So they
Yep.
throw everything in the kitchen sink at him. Um,
Yep.
Not always true the first time someone plays them. That people sometimes think maybe I'll just ignore him. But if you do that, then he just walks through your army.
Right. You have to have a
Um,
very specific type of army, I think. I do believe there are armies that can probably ignore him, but
it's
it has to
rough.
be a very specific type of army, I think. Like
It's rough.
I think if you're taking tons of orc boys, or I think if you're taking stuff that can physically limit the movement of him, maybe.
I don't. This guy. I mean, he
You don't
chews
think
through
so?
orcs. This guy. This guy. He hurts. When he hits you, he hurts.
Okay, so why aren't we taking him 100% of the time?
Well, because Drakari is really big in the meta right now,
Poison, right?
and well, not just poison, dark
Okay.
lances.
Dark Lances, yeah. Yeah, I
because
guess all the multi-melta shit that Space Marines are
any
doing too, yeah.
well, no, I don't really care. Again, it's funny because I don't care so much about the multi meltas because their range isn't as great, and
Okay.
I can technically usually deal with the multi meltas pretty early.
Okay.
Um,
Man, I don't
I
know.
mean, it depends. If they're taking a ton of multi meltas, like if you're taking attack bikes with multi meltas, and you're taking uh, the grav guys or the gravis guys with the multi meltas and all
Yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff,
but that stuff will wait.
it gets
That
it
waxes
does
and
get a little
wanes.
out of control. But even then, if you break it down, like it usually takes at least 2 turns to kill this guy. But Drakari,
Yeah.
man. So first off, Dark Lances, 36-inch ranges. You know, they get their built-in rerolls. They're if they get a shot through, they're doing 3 damage, even with the -1,
Yeah.
potentially 5 damage, with tons of dark light, where you're just gonna make this guy pay. Um,
Yeah.
on top of that, you have all the poison weapons that you were saying before, and then on top of that, we talked before about my witches.
Mm-hmm.
Um, while not great, you'd be surprised how good a 4+ invulnerable save on a crappy toughness 3 model is against somebody like this, and then forcing them not to retreat. Um,
Yeah, the problem
it,
is
it's
definitely
it's
that.
kind of it's kind of silly how effective. Again, I personally haven't used Mortarion against this, but
Yeah.
I mean, I've rolled it out.
Yeah.
I've theory crafted it. I've spent a lot of time breaking it down and just seeing like because when I built my Drakari, one of the things I was like, how do I deal with something like Mortarion? And honestly, not too shabby.
Okay, so we may have won. Yeah, we may have won the day there with Drukari, and I have a feeling when AdMech comes out, well, I mean, even right now, they can
They'll
shoot anything off the
yeah.
board. But
So a lot of people are
I get
crying
you.
about we could just real quick. I know the community is like, oh, 70% win rate is what you kind of hear over and
Yeah.
over again.
Uh huh.
But I mean, let's look at it realistically here. It's a new faction that plays completely different,
Right.
right? People are not used to fighting against Drakari.
Yep.
They don't know how to deal with them.
Yep.
So you got to start thinking about how do you deal with them. You know, you need to remove them from their raiders. As soon as you remove a unit from its raider, it's like the gooey inside that you could just chew up.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
they want to charge. So how do you do that? You know, things like this, right? Things that guarantee damage on Overwatch.
Yeah.
You know, if these incubi are charging into me and they only have 1 wound apiece, and I'm taking out like 4 or 5 of them,
Yep.
they're not going to have much bite left.
Yep.
Witches, they're not going to have much bite left. The only thing I'm really concerned about is maybe jet bikers, maybe hellions, especially like Cult of Strife hellions that are all buffed up. But you know, how does the play with if I make them strike last and now they can't attack me until I've attacked,
Right.
right? Are they dropping their warlord to also make my unit strike last? You know, these are things that you got to
Yep.
consider before using your abilities. Are they going to even think to do that? Or are they going to be overconfident? Like
Yeah.
I this army, I technically built it and added more synergy around it to deal with that counter charge and how do I stop them from doing as much damage as possible.
Yeah.
And I it's I mean, I want to play the match. The problem is I am also the Drakari player in my group.
Yeah.
That's another thing with Drakari is there's not a ton of Drakari players out there.
Right. Right. You know what's really cool about that though, and this whole meta super, high level view of everything is like it's really fucking fluffy. Everyone lives in fear of the Drukari raid,
Right.
right? And then no one does it.
Well, no.
But
Well,
uh, but if you don't build for it, you're
now
absolutely
if you go to
hosed.
a tournament, right, you're going to see a lot of them at high end tables
Yeah, for sure. I
because
think right
they're gonna
now.
they're gonna float to the top. But like you said, any army that can do a lot of shooting, it's not like raiders are that durable. So
Yeah,
any army that can put, and man, you and me have talked about this a bunch. Like Space Marines, right? Their meta is like you said, Meltas,
sure.
and that's great against something like a Mortarion or something that you got to take
Mhm.
care of. Death Guard, great, but those Meltas are terrible against raiders
Yeah, I would
because
not want
you're
that.
trying to put in a bunch of high damage single shots against something that can just ignore it one
Yep.
third of the time,
Yep.
and then on top of the 1/3 of the time that they ignore it, like yeah, you can burn them down, but what really works against a raider is stuff like heavy Gatling cannons.
Yeah,
Like
strength
the onslaught, the
6,
heavy onslaught
high
Gatling,
output.
yes, tons of shots, strength 6, yeah,
Yeah.
just Swiss cheese them, you know.
Yeah. Wow,
Uh,
it's interesting. Wow, yeah.
it's such a different, like, Space Marine players probably need to just rethink how they build against Drakari. They have every tool in their tool belt to do it. It's just that
Yeah.
that is not the meta for Space Marines right now. Everybody's invested in, you know, the attack bikes with the multi meltas, the
Yeah.
I can't, man, for life with the eliminators. Are they eliminators or are those the
Eradicators?
no, yeah, eradicators. So what, like
Eradicators.
the Gravis guys with the
Yeah.
multi meltas, like that's the way Space Marines play right now.
Yeah.
And that stuff is terrible against like witches
Yep.
and
Harlequins, witches, totally.
high model count, high damage output. It's just garbage,
Yeah.
you know. But you throw in like a salamanders list that you can max out on like heavy flamers and aggressors with the flamers and stuff
Yeah.
like that. You know, you're playing a different game now.
Yeah.
Imperial Guard, man, Imperial Guard. You take like 3 of their heavy mortar tanks
Uh-huh.
with like the 46 strength 6, I think,
Yeah,
AP -1, ignore
yeah.
cover,
The
those
Hydras?
things.
Not the Hydras. I know what
It's
you
the
mean.
same kit,
Yeah, it's
but
the same kit.
those things will shred raiders.
Sure.
Like, people just aren't thinking. There's a weakness to the Drakari. People aren't necessarily playing to the weakness of Drakari because, again, like I said, it's not the current meta.
Mm-hmm.
By the time the next codex drops, people will be like, "This is how you beat Drakari."
Right.
And they're
Yeah.
strong. Don't get me wrong; they are a strong faction. They're fast. They're deadly. They hit hard. They're super good. And I'm not trying to understate how strong Drakari are right now, but they're not I don't think they're the boogeyman. They're not gonna, like, everybody thought Death Guard was super broken, Mortarion was overpowered,
Mm-hmm.
Death Guard Terminators were the strongest thing in the world, but you don't hear anything about them now.
Yeah, and then the
Nobody
next
talks
week
about
happened.
them. Everyone's freaking out about Drakari, right?
Right.
Because the meta shifts, the meta changes. Drakari is kind of a hard counter to at least most of the Death Guard army, right? Toughness 3, but poison weapons ignore all that stuff. Like I said, we built witches so that witches are strength 5, so they're wounding these guys on 4s with,
Gosh, yep.
like, witches shred these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the tools are there. The game is getting to a point now where we're starting to, peak, and we're getting to this point where the game is in a pretty
Right.
good state where these things are revolving so quickly, but you can go back to an old book that already, revolved out of favor and pull it off the shelf and find the tools to leapfrog the current meta. And that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, potentially. Everybody wants to talk about power creep, and maybe there is a lot of power creep going on right now. I tend to chalk this up to like the normal power creep that you see on top of new edition codexes, which are
Right.
a complete redesign of how armies function. And
Yeah.
what I like is they've really started taking these factions and drilling down in what makes Space Marines unique, what makes Blood Angels unique, what makes Necrons unique, what makes
Yep.
Death Guard unique, what makes Drakari unique. And they said, what do we want this faction to do? And then how do we write rules for them to make them do that? Where before everything started getting kind of homogenous.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody had like kind of the same strats and,
Yep. You just looked for the same
transhuman,
profile of
yada,
weapons.
yada,
Yep.
right. And I feel like with these new books, now, again, we'll have to wait till we have the whole picture and see how everything kind of interacts. But to me, it seems like I've never been so excited to play a faction that I play when they get a book, because I read the rules, I read the fluff, and I'm just like, man, they are nailing it. This is exactly how it should feel. This is like the Death Guard. They're all about especially the list I built. It's all about going around spreading disease and filth, hosing you down with like whatever goo
It's the nastiest thing
bacteria
ever.
that causes your skin to boil up and puster and bleed. Like,
Yep.
it feels like Death Guard. It feels
It
like I
does.
am a spreading plague. I'm a slow, you can't really stop it. Your best bet is to try to probably run away and score your secondaries.
Man.
And it feels good. It feels like I'm
it's
playing
good.
Death Guard. And on the counter that, my Drakari feel like just a fast, sharp blade.
Yeah. I mean, we've been going on about this for a little while now, but like, I think this is important to point out to people. Like, if you're going to have multiple armies, have armies that play differently,
Right.
at a minimum, right? If you're going to have like, I have I have two armies on standby at all times, and they're polar opposites. They play differently. You just talked about how you have Drakari right now in the spotlight, and that plays one way, and then your Death Guard is kind of a cool little like mirror match shakeup for yourself, right? But that's really cool because you get to play both sides of the spectrum, and you get to see the strategies that it takes to make both of those lists good against each other. And I think it makes people, a lot better players too, because you become aware of that stuff so much easier.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my only complaint about the two armies that I like to play are that they literally got two codexes back to back. So normally I have a couple months to play one of the armies that
Yeah.
I like, and then a book comes out for an army I like, and I got a couple months to play with that one.
Yeah.
And this one I've been having a hard time juggling. Like, do I play my Drakari? Do I bring my Death Guard?
Yeah.
Uh, they're both super fun to play. Again, this edition has just I'm just so excited to play Warhammer again.
It's good. It's a good addition. Cool. Well, that's a pretty good rundown of your list. I think you talked about a lot of really cool, unique strats and combinations that make your flamers spewing Death Guard really
Yeah,
unique.
and I mean, like, there's so much stuff that I didn't talk about that's situational that this army still does well, right? Like,
Yeah.
you still have your trench fighter strat for your Death Guard squad that gives them the extra attacks with their plague knives. Like, you still have basically all the other stratagems that as a Death Guard player you're probably familiar with. I really just focused on what are the strats that I want to use every turn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I focused on, right?
Yeah.
All the other options are still out there. They're still super good, super strong, very situational, and you have that tool belt. But like, if you have no idea how to play this army, what I tried to say is, here's the army, here's the strats that you're going to want to be using every turn. Here's how you want to think about using them.
Right.
We didn't really dive too much into secondaries. A little bit. Domination, I think, is a good one. I like the objectives with the plague stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The third one is kind of a hit or miss depending on my opponent. Usually, I probably take the like kill more than your
Sure.
opponent
Yeah.
kills, because again, my whole point is I'm trying to be durable. So I usually end up out killing my opponent. But again, it all depends, right? If I'm playing custodians, obviously I'm not taking that one.
Yeah. But there's
Um,
interesting play there. Like you do force people into a box a little bit. Like if you pick kill more, I mean, you're forcing me to go after your two Poxwalker units and your Plague Marines and the singular drones, which means I'm screwing up because all the other big stuff that's going to smash into me, especially if you've got all the Terminators, I have
mhm.
to ignore them if I want to try to leapfrog you on that secondary, and
Yep.
that's a smart play. So yeah,
The other
that's
one
really
is
good.
the while we stand we fight.
Right?
It's because it's 10 plague marines, it's 10 blight lord terminators, and it's the 5 death shroud terminators.
Yeah.
So those are the three while we stand we fight. So forcing my opponent to try to remove all three of
Yeah.
those is also going to be pretty rough.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, you have a lot of secondary options built in.
So
We
that one's interesting too. I'm just trying to think about this from the perspective of again playing custodies. Like when you take that while we stand, that means I basically can't dedicate time to killing your weak troops and all that, like the Poxwalkers and the
right.
tank or whatever. Like I can't focus on that stuff, which means I'm giving up that primary. So I have to make that decision very early on. Am I going to try to take you on primary? And if I choose not to, which now it's debatable, maybe that's still the right decision, then I'm going to have to absolutely double down and make sure I kill those units, which could be harder than it looks.
Yeah, and I'm usually sitting on objectives with these guys, so you usually want to be fighting because I also usually take domination.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
there, I mean, there's
There's a lot to that.
there's things.
Yeah. Okay.
Bringing your poxwalkers back too is good, because usually if someone does try to shoot them, they don't address a whole lot of fire to them, so you can usually bring
Yeah.
them back.
Yeah.
There's we could go into a lot of details on a lot of these things. Again, the secondaries, all situational. There's a lot of options. Again, if you're looking through it, try to focus on things that either cause you not to move. This is not a scramblers.
Right.
This is not a line breaker. I mean, you
Yep.
could do line breaker, but you probably don't.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. If you're
just my
moving, I
two
mean,
cents.
you're moving in an aggressive manner, most likely to smash somebody else. Cool.
Yeah, it's a fun list.
All right.
If you got the models, try it out, see what you think. comment below. Let me know. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Awesome.
But
All right, cool. Well, you want to wrap it up there for the day then?
yeah, I think we can call it.
All right, cool. Well, again, thank you guys for listening. It's been 40K Shop Talk. I'm your host, Austin, here with Rob, and I guess we'll wrap it up then.